Isabel, it's so awesome to have you as a guest on the podcast. I found you through Christine and she posted about you. I was like, who's this chick who's so cute? And she's a doctor. Oh my God. And so I was like, I have to know more because it was fascinating to see just how Christine was, her cupping marks and all of that and how she shared. And so I was like, I need to share this with the community. This is insane. This is incredible as I was digging through your Instagram. And so you are officially a doctor of acupuncture and herbal medicine, probably like focus on Chinese medicine, but mostly herbal and like the naturopathic way of healing, of releasing toxins from the body, anything unhealed. And so I just think it's fascinating. And I'm so excited to talk to you about just that body, soul, energetic connection of like how we are so connected. So as you're seeing this in your practice of helping people heal and release, I'm just so excited to dig into this with you because you talk about it all the time. And I'm so excited to explore this with you because it's new to me and I'm sure new to other people. So thank you so much and welcome to the Soulish Podcast.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here. This is awesome.
We're so excited to have you. I know everybody's just going to be beaming right now. I wanted to ask you about your journey and becoming like finding this medicine and finding this practice and becoming a doctor. Like what led you to do what you do today?
This is a very interesting story. I wanted to be a veterinarian forever since I was 5.
Wow.
And I went to college for that. I got accepted into my dream school out in Arizona, and I found myself really, really miserable. I was supposed to put down my deposit. I was supposed to start making plans to get out there. And it was like something was eating away at my soul and I didn't understand it. I was shocked because this is what I'd invested so much time and money and energy in. It's not easy to get into vet school. I had to work a job at a vet place while I was in school. I worked a lot while balancing classes, and it was all really great experience, but something was just missing. So I found this energy healer. I went to school in Corpus Christi. So I found an energy healer on the island, and her name was Karen, which is important because my aunt's name is Karen and she too is a really potent energy healer. So I felt very led to her. I'm like, oh, it's a Karen, then I have to go,
Wow.
which is now hilarious that we have the Karens of the world. The only Karens I personally know are the most potent energy healers I've ever worked with. So that always makes me laugh. But I headed out to her and had a session, and I came off the table. She was a Reiki master. And I looked at her and I said, I'm not going to vet school. And she was like, oh, okay, what are you going to do? And I said, I don't know, but I'm miserable and we're not doing this anymore. So I thought to myself, what can I do that combines my background in medicine, although Western medicine, still medicine, and my passion, my personal passion for energy medicine. So I'd been a patient of Reiki for a very long time. I'd been seeing an acupuncturist for allergy elimination and anxiety, which looking back, no wonder I was so anxious having all of this going on.
Yeah.
And just feeling so disconnected from my path. And I just dawned on me that acupuncture is a great way to combine both of them because you have to have Western training. So everything I'd done, still had value, in getting me into acupuncture school. So I turned on my acceptances to vet school, applied to school here in Austin. The school's called AOMA. Called my family. I said, hey, I'm moving to Austin. I'm going to acupuncture school. I hope you're okay with that because this is what I'm doing.
I love that. Like there isn't a discussion here, but just informing you.
Yeah, this is the plan.
I love it. You're so bold, so courageous. Oh my gosh.
Thanks.
Wow. So then you went through school. It all resonated with you. Like the entire time you were getting educated, you're like, this is what is meant to be.
Yeah. And I think an important part of the story is I had only been getting acupuncture for a few months before I even applied to school. It's not like I'd been going for years. I loved my experience, but I just felt so like a soul connection with the medicine that I was like, I'm going, and everyone thought I was insane because here I was still new to the practice. I'd never had cupping done. I didn't even know what it was. You know what I mean? I knew nothing, but I just had this overwhelming feeling of this is where I need to be and I need to go now. So I did.
Wow.
It
You
made
were
no
like,
logical sense.
no,
None.
you're just listening to the call.
Hmm.
Wow. So you went through school. I had this question come up as you were talking. I'm just going to ask it now. Have you looked into your history and seen if besides your aunt Karen, is there a lineage of like healers, shamans? Like, have you looked into that?
No, and if there is, I'm not aware of it. There's nobody else right now in this lifetime who's alive who does anything close to what I do. But I do know through a bunch of past life work that I've been killed many, many times for being a witch or a healer, whatever it was called at the time. And there's just a part of me that's so grateful that the odds of me being killed for what I do in this lifetime are very low.
Yeah.
And it just honestly, thinking about that too deeply makes me feel just weepy and so grateful that here we are and I can finally play with herbs and practice this medicine and do whatever, and there is that freedom. So I know that I've been doing that for lifetimes, but I'm not sure what my lineage has been doing. I would love to investigate that sometime.
That would be so cool to see. Like if there is a
Yeah.
lineage, but just knowing your past life history, that's enough to just like be like, yeah, like this is like my soul. My soul is a healer, you know?
Yeah. Yeah,
That's
totally.
so cool. I feel that same way. I just haven't done the past life work. I had a mini past life regression for the podcast with Daniel, the past life regressionist, just to get a taste of what past life is because I'm so new to all of that. But I would
Mhm.
love to look into the history of why do I feel so called to be an energetic, emotional, mental? I can't do the physical part, but in what way, in what ways has this been throughout my history as a spirit, as a soul? Because that's so
Yeah.
interesting. So I need to go back to Daniel and just do a past life regression session and just figure it out, see what comes up, what I'm shown.
Yeah. It's so
That's so
powerful and
cool.
it makes things make sense.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's crazy that you were persecuted for being a healer, for wanting to help people back in the day. And like in your past life regression sessions, did you feel like any of that trauma, any of that past pain, was that able to get dealt with? And did you feel like that helped you in your practice and even in your education?
So in this session, I'll just be candid, this was all done with plant medicine. I
Yeah.
would love to do a formal past life regression, just sober with a regressionist. I found one here in Austin that I look forward to meeting with. But this was all with plant medicine, and I investigated this actually to figure out this weird karmic relationship with somebody in my life.
Mm.
And I wanted to get to the root of that. And what I found was that this is our fifth lifetime together. And four
Wow.
times they are the one who turned me in for being a witch, and they are the reason that I was killed. The same person. And now we're doing it's like same shit, different life.
Yeah,
So
literally.
I accidentally found out, that this was my past lives through just trying to look at this specific relationship. So honestly, through that work, there was a lot of healing
Wow.
and a lot of like, oh, I mean, I understand now looking back at the zero logic that my path has
Yeah.
had into this medicine in this life, how my soul was so just like, we're tired of the bullshit. We want to finally be safe and to practice what we want. And that's why there was such a pull and I mean, there was no other option for me than to pursue this medicine. It was just so clear. And no matter what anybody said and how much support I didn't have at the time, for it. And I did have some support, but there was a lot of confusion.
Right.
I was like, I don't care. I'm going. Like I've never felt such a sense of knowing and a sense of it just doesn't matter what you guys do to me. I've been killed before for this. So I've already had the worst of it. So come at me. Like, what are you gonna do? This is what I'm doing. And now it makes sense.
Yeah, but you have like that fight, that grit. Like nothing's gonna
Yeah.
stop me now. I
Right.
incarnated and y'all get to have the medicine now. Y'all get to get healed. So sit back,
Yeah,
relax, take it. That's
exactly.
so cool. That's so cool. And wow, how crazy is that, right? That like the karma of that person being back and how it translated in this life and all the stuff that was going on. I think that's just fascinating.
Yeah, just wild. It was just so healing, and just the letting go of the expectations too of that relationship. Once I haven't shared this with them yet, so once I do, then I'll we
Yeah.
could get into that. But until I
Yeah,
do,
yeah,
I'll
yeah.
just keep it as a person.
Yeah, that's okay. That's
Yeah.
totally fine. I love it. So just because I can't hold off any longer, I want to get into what you do. I'm like, "Rah!" I'm so excited. So I personally have a huge aversion to needles. Like I have a gut reaction and I know what it stems from. I was held down when I was a kid, when I was like five or so. I was held down by at least five to six people at least, like the whole nurse, all the nurses in that little pediatrics office came in because I was putting up the most glorious fight as a 5-year-old because I just was terrified. And I remember being like on my back and they're holding me down to give me this shot, whatever it was.
Mhm.
And I couldn't find my mom in the room. I remember looking and I can't find her anywhere. And I'm screaming bloody murder, like I'm about to get murdered or hacked away or something like that. I mean, it was so dramatic. But I just remember the feeling like I never saw the needle, but I felt the needle. And so that trauma of I'm being held down against my will, like they're not taking this slowly. They're not like letting me come to terms with the fact that like, yes, you have to get a shot but you need to like come to terms with that first, like there was no
Yeah.
like leading me through that as a 5-year-old. So it was that trauma of like, there's nothing I can do and I'm being held against my will. And then I feel the poke. And so that there's like this, this
Yeah.
energetic gut response. And I got my blood drawn for the first time, like 5 years ago, 4 years ago. And I had to get like a pediatrics guide to do it because they were like, no, if you have a thing, like they're the most fun, they're gentle, like it's going to be a great process. And they're also really good at what they do because they have to do tiny veins usually. And so
Yeah.
I was like, thank God. And he was so awesome. We talked about everything under the sun because I needed someone to talk me through it. And I told him, I was like, don't stop talking to me, whatever you do, like through this whole process. But I made it through. And then I felt like, see, that wasn't bad. Like you didn't get hurt. Like I felt like I had to talk to my soul and reaffirm the fact that like it's not that hurts you. It's actually good. You actually need to get your blood panels run because then you know what's actually going on in here. And this is how you get healthy. This is how you're in tune with your body. Like this is really beneficial.
Yeah.
See? And I had to like talk to myself. Through that afterwards also just to make sure like can we heal this finally because like this is a huge thing that I've ran from my whole life. So I have never gotten acupuncture because of that, but
Mm-hmm.
I watch people do it and I cringe a little bit, but I look at the benefits and I hear the benefits and I'm like, God, like I just want to get to the point. So maybe you're gonna pop that bubble.
Yeah.
I'll fly down to Austin and get it done by you because you're so precious and sweet. I know you'd be kind.
Yes. Yes. Absolutely.
But I just love like what it does. And can you go into that a little bit? I'm not sure if it's
Yeah.
specifically the meridians, like the points in which I know
Yeah.
that's important, but why needles? Like why is it needles that work so well with that?
So, first of all, I wish we could call them something other than needles,
Yeah.
just because of the rep they get. I too have been terrified of needles forever, and I'm extremely sensitive. So the good news is I'm really good at working with patients who are needle sensitive because I am one of those patients. So the nursing needles, the hypodermic needles, they are meant to slice. They are really big. They're hollow, and the end has like a. If this is the needle, it has one of these angled ends so that it can slice.
Right.
Our needles, first of all, are so small. They're like the hair length or width, and they are meant to glide. So they're pointy at the top. There's no, there's nothing hollow. There's no angle. It's just very tiny and it's meant to just bloop. I wish we could call them like friends instead of needles. Because
We
they're
can call
just
them friends.
friends. There's nothing similar really at all, besides the fact that they go in the body, but totally different intentions, right?
Yeah.
So I like to tell people that, and I'll also, let you hold the needle, see it if you want to, and move it, because with nursing needles, if you were to go and flick it, it doesn't move. They have to be strong. Ours are just like la, 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 like they're so flimsy. Totally different experience. So honestly, if I can have needles, anyone can do it. I totally understand being afraid or being unsure, or because of different experiences with nursing needles. Totally different. But
That's
yeah,
good to know. I didn't know that.
yeah. So needles they're made of metal, which is important because metal conducts electricity.
Okay.
So you can hook up E-stem machines to it, which are electricity machines to pump electrons through areas. It's like an internal TENS unit. Have you used a TENS unit?
Wow. No.
With like you put the pad on and then hook up the electricity. A lot of chiropractors use them.
Yes, I have done that.
Yeah. So we can do that, but instead of the pad, you're hooking up the lead directly to the needles, which are inside of you, and pumping the electrons to areas of deficiency. So whether it was a muscle tear or you're working on something psycho-emotionally.
Wow.
But the needles are there because even without using that electricity, it's going to conduct its own. We're a giant magnet. The universe is a giant magnet, and it's all energy. So it's helping to conduct that energy flow. The needles themselves, they do create micro traumas when they are inserted into your body, and it tells the body, hey, healing needs to happen here. So you can focus on meridians. You can focus on more like sports medicine side of it and just target pain points or trigger points. All of that is fair game. I tend to use a mix of those. I do treat a lot of pain, just coming from a background with using Tuina, Asian bodywork, and cupping. But yeah, it depends on, where the needles go and what you're trying to balance. Even with pain, there's a meridian aspect to that too. So most of the points are targeting somewhere very specific. The needles do cause an endorphin release, which helps with pain, helps with mood. It also works on the central nervous system. So it is sending different chemicals to your muscles, spinal cord, brain, which is amazing. We've done studies where we put different needles in areas of the body, and you watch the brain light up in different areas under an MRI machine. So you can see that even though from a Western side, it doesn't always make sense why a needle in your foot is going to light up a certain part of your brain that's nothing to do with your foot. You can see that that's happening, and it is real. So 5,000 years ago, when this medicine was invented, there was something to it, which was just fascinating.
That is fascinating. I didn't know it originated that far back, but it makes sense. But dang, like who was the origin? That, like, was it Chinese that came
China?
up with? Wow.
I think, yeah. My training is in Chinese medicine and acupuncture. There is Japanese style, there is Korean. There's a bunch of different techniques and styles, and they're all really, really cool. I think the very first records we have are from China, but I could be wrong just because of the lineage that I learned. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think, yeah.
Wow, that's so cool. 5,000 years ago. Dang.
Yeah.
Practicing this for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. So, and then you also see that, like you mentioned, like psycho-emotional. Is that right? Did I say that right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So that also plays a part where someone can be storing like emotions in the body, trapped emotions or anything unhealed, any unhealed trauma, and that can also get addressed through using acupuncture. Wow.
Yes. So in acupuncture, in the Chinese medicine world, we have 5 elements. Are you familiar with the Chinese elements?
No, you go, girl.
Okay. So there's wood, fire, earth, metal, and water. And you have a cycle, a generating and a controlling cycle. So each element has 2 organs associated with it, the yin and the yang organ of each element. Tell me if this gets too confusing.
Nope. Go. This is awesome.
Okay. And each element also has an emotion. So if you're trying to treat, for example, since we're going into fall, it's the metal element season, and the organs with that are lungs and large intestine. And the emotion of it is grief or sadness.
Wow.
So if you stay really in tune with the seasons, as we move into fall, you'll notice a heaviness, things start dying, leaves on the trees, plants, animals go into hibernation or, move somewhere else. And you have this heaviness, this grief. A lot of people, physically pass away in the fall or winter. It's just this different energetic season. But also limiting beliefs. It's a good time to let these parts of you that aren't serving to you die, and for lack of a better term. So you've got the lungs, which are really nourishing, and they're letting you bring in what you need. And the large intestine physically lets go of what you don't need in terms of bowel movements, but also energetically cleansing what you don't need. So the main elements we're working with all five of the main emotions we're working with these 5 elements are grief, worry, anger, joy, and fear.
Wow.
So those are your 5 primary emotions according to the seasons. So, you see, if we're working with the fire element too, so that's heart and small intestine. So the emotion is joy, which you're like, oh my gosh, joy. How could that ever be negative? Well, in this theory of Chinese medicine that I learned, too much joy manifests as mania. Right. So you have too much fire. And of course, when you get into a manic state, there's its own pitfalls there. So although you can work with physical things, like maybe you pulled a hamstring, or maybe you, name something else that's going on, you can also work on the emotional aspect of these meridians and elements.
It's just amazing.
Yeah.
That's so cool. That's so cool. And then you also add in like herbal medicine into that as well, because that's what you specialize in.
Yeah.
So that's
Yeah,
so cool. Like,
absolutely.
what herbs do you specifically use them for 5 elements, or is that something completely different that you use herbs for?
So there is a specific theory, the 5 element theory. I am not trained in their specific medicine, but the elements carry through all different types of acupuncture lineages. So the herbs are there to support your system and to continue balancing whatever is imbalanced while you're not on the table. Because what you do at home is just as important as what you're doing with me in a session. And the whole point of doing acupuncture, doing any of the things that I do, is to teach your body and help it remember how to heal itself. So we're trying to turn on processes that have been turned off for whatever reason. There's genetics that play a role, and then trauma, of course, or maybe you're eating the wrong diet for your constitution, or the reasons are endless, but the herbs are there to support you when you're not with me and to continue that process. For example, I originally found acupuncture for allergy elimination. I was severely allergic to cats and had every seasonal allergy under the sun. I don't even know what all I was allergic to, because it was just constant. So I sought out acupuncture, and I took herbs, the same formula, for a little over a year. And what they were doing is working on my Wei Qi, or my defensive Qi. I was not blessed with a naturally awesome immune system. When I was born, my lungs and liver were under functioning, so it just took me a little more time. I had pertussis, whooping cough. All these things that taxed my immune system, or that I got because my immune system was so low functioning just from the start. So not all of us start this life equally. Some of us have deficiencies to start with, and then our job is to nurture those so that we can, be on the same level and to heal and to get to a place where we're functioning optimally. Right. So I took these herbs for a little over a year, and I have no allergies. I have 2 cats. I don't take an allergy pill. Sometimes mold will still get me when the mold gets really high here in Austin. Yeah. But even then, I just take some more herbs. I never have to have Benadryl, which I took daily for an embarrassing amount of years. So that's just one example of how you can reroute what's going on in your body.
And also understand it, right? Like of what's going on and see the history, which is so important.
Yeah.
Wow. Wow. So also what you do is cupping. And I see also as you cup, you also kind of you massage or move whatever it is that's happening as well. Can you go into this? Because I've seen it. I know nothing about it.
Yes, this is my absolute obsession. I love cupping so much because it works. I mean, all of this medicine that I do works. I was an athlete, I guess still am, but I competitive basketball player for a very long time. So I came into this world with a lot of old injuries, and cupping helped me like nothing else, because when you have these really severe stagnations, acupuncture is great, herbal medicine is great, but you have to like get in there, really aggressively move chi and blood in order to really get things to heal. Not always, but at least for what was going on with me. So cupping is in essence a reverse deep tissue treatment. So instead of positive pressure pushing down, you're pulling up negative pressure, and it's very strong, especially when you use the glass cups. So what that does is it pulls up on all the layers of fascia, and it allows for any stagnations to drain through. So you can have a stagnation from an old injury, from staying in one position for too long. So I see a lot of people who, sitting on the computer. It's a really good way to stagnate blood in your shoulders and in your neck. Also, processed sugar, hormones, pollution, all of these things get stuck in our skin and then get into our fascia layers that we don't think about every day. And honestly, just living in the day and age we live in, you're going to be exposed to way more things than what you're even conscious of. And what
Mhm.
we're doing is pulling it up and flushing it through the lymph system. So it's extremely detoxing. Honestly, even emotionally, emotions stagnate blood. So if you've been really stressed, that stress is the primary emotion that I see lots of stagnations with, especially in the back and the shoulders. I'm also looking at down both sides of your spine. You have really important acupuncture points that correspond to all of the organs, all the way down your erectors. So I can look at the color of the cups based on where those acupuncture points are and see where you're holding on to the most stagnant energy. So if it's anger or frustration or stress, I'll look at the liver back shu. If you've been really anxious, I'm going to look at the heart back shu, which is more upper back, and then into the scapulas, where its best friend, the small intestine, is. So we're kind of tracking where you're holding things in your body and then looking at the colors. So the darker the color, the more severe the stagnation. And it's okay if you have a severe stagnation. That sounds like it's life or death. It's really not. But if you do have an old injury, or you were in a car accident, or you played competitive sports and didn't have a whole lot of self-care, you're going to probably have a bunch of really dark towards purple marks. So purple is severe stagnation. And then as you get lighter into the red, that's some stagnation. If you have red speckles, it's blood heat. It's extremely diagnostic, more than what people realize.
Yeah. And you literally get to see what it relates to,
Mm-hmm.
which is insane. That is so cool. That is so
Yeah.
cool. It would be interesting to go to you and see where that ends up, because I fractured my lower vertebrae when I was 16. I wore heels to school because that's what you did at my school. It was the
Yeah.
classic
Yeah.
valley girl, Cali girl, like private school. And so I was like, I had to fit in, but I have major balance issues. And so I slipped and fell down the stairs, cracked my lower vertebrae, just like the Scotty dog part, just a little bit, a little crack, but it was enough to send me through like whole back body spasms, like from my tushy all the way up to my neck. So that's how we took me in and found out that I even had cracked my vertebrae. And so I did I think like 6 months of physical therapy, because that's all that the insurance paid for. But I like when I go to a masseuse, I literally say, do not touch my lower back, because it will hurt for like weeks afterwards. So it'd be interesting to get that healed, because I know I have scar tissue and stuff like
Yeah.
that. Maybe cupping is the way to go.
I think it'd be a really, really great option. I see with a lot of clients who have had old back injuries or surgeries. Maybe you have, a rod in your spine, or, I mean, you name it, there's a ton of spinal surgeries that you can
Yeah,
have.
my dad does.
All of, yeah. Surgery is a really good way, again, to stagnate blood. And what people don't understand is, although maybe your range of motion is almost back from your injury, or you're not feeling it every day, you're like, oh, it's good, it's healed. Well, actually, your body holds on to lots of things way deep down without you consciously realizing every day. You don't have to be in pain every day for your body to be holding on to, whether it's like stagnant emotions or from stagnant blood from an old injury. I've seen clients whose injuries were 10, 15, 20 years ago. And our first session, their back is completely purple. And they're like, I
Woo.
don't understand. And I'm like, well, I know that, you healed and your scar looks good, everything's fine, but deep down, this isn't healed. And deep down, this really needs to be flushed out so it doesn't cause more problems later on in life when you're 70, 80, 90, which of course you can still work on it then. And that's really beautiful. But if you know that you've had these injuries and you're, in your 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, it's going to be easier for you to flush all of this faster if you really get on it now.
Wow. So I know that this is relative to someone's condition, what they're coming to you with, but have you seen it? Have you seen that full circle healing process with people? I'm sure with extreme people, they need more sessions. But have you seen that, like, it lightens up over time? They also feel differently. That's crazy.
Yeah, the cups definitely lighten up over time. And, the goal is to get to a place where you don't mark at all. But in order for that to happen, you have to be, imagine a human, no stress. You're eating perfectly for your constitution. You're just moving through life. You're stretching enough. You're not overdoing it in your workouts. Everything is perfect. That person doesn't exist. So you're going to have cup marks. It's just how dark are they and how quickly do they heal? Because if they're going away 2-3 days, that's optimal. That's amazing. And that maybe they're just slightly red or they look nice and healthy, because you want to have some color. The opposite of that is when, so what we're talking about is really excess conditions. The purple, the red, all of that's excess, but there's a whole other aspect, which is the deficiency. So if you're not marking at
Mm.
all, or I take the cup marks off and your body feels physically cold underneath the cup, you have a deficiency in that area. So you don't want that either. We don't want the purple, and we also don't want the like blue cold looking. Now, the blue color doesn't stay because you don't have the chi, the blood, the energy to mark at all. So we want to be somewhere in the middle
Wow.
of that. Yeah.
Wow. So that deficiency would that mostly be diet? Like they're not supplementing enough, they're not eating the things that they need to eat.
Diet definitely plays a role in deficiencies, but also people who are too overworked, like they're running on empty, there's no energy,
Mm.
chronic fatigue syndrome. A lot of women in this culture, in the United States specifically, have like heat above, excess above, so kind of diaphragm and above, the cups are really dark, and then diaphragm below, they're really light and they're really cold, and it's cold below. So a lot of this stems
Interesting.
from knowing how to nourish our womb and taking care of our liver. Birth control and medications also play a huge role in this. So these deficiencies can really come from anything. But mostly I see clients who are just beyond exhausted.
Wow.
Mhm.
And just overworking. Wow. That's interesting because I think of human design, which I don't know how much of that Yeah.
Yeah.
So like I see it in my family members all the time, in friends, where it's like you're a projector. You're meant to work 4-5 hours max, like maybe even 6 hours max, if it's like a rough day. But those 4 to 6 hours are like working 8 to 12 hours a day. Like they power pack it in. They're so efficient, but they're meant to have more time resting and relaxing and being creative and flowing and getting geared up. And so it's interesting to me that, like, I see a lot of my projector friends, I'm for some reason surrounded by projectors, and they work like they're a generator. They work 12 to 14, sometimes 16-hour days all week. They work every day of the week. And it's just like, ah, like, and you can see it, you can feel it, where it's like, whoa.
Yeah.
And I'm a manifester, so I know that I'm meant to flow more and to kind of go with the energy flow. So wherever I have high energy, put that into concentrating and focusing and getting tasks done. And then as I feel kind of the release of that and kind of the ebbing down is my time to flow, to nourish, to be creative, to flow, to get physical, like do yoga, dance, like so I've learned that that's like what I need to do. And thank God, like I have a job that allows me to do that now. But I see that a lot. And I'm sure a lot of people are acting outside of their energetic flow of just how they work and how they, enjoy social events or being around their family. So I'm sure that has a lot to do with it.
Absolutely. And we have a lot of, just extremely chi deficient, extremely blood deficient people. And sometimes they're completely unaware. So I'll say to them, how's your energy level? Because I'm feeling their pulse. And they're like, oh, I feel great. I'm like, really? Tell me more detail. Like, how do you feel throughout the day? Because the pulse is just so weak, for how they're feeling in their body. They have no cut marks. And when you're feeling sore and tight and stressed, you should mark. And when you're feeling like that and you don't, that's another sign to me that you are so chi and blood deficient, sometimes just beyond your own comprehension, which of course is, in this society, we're such a consume culture and a go, 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 and it's all patterning, right? So the goal is to get you to be aware of what's going on in your body, so you're not burning through your chi, your blood, your yin, and aging too quickly, and you're exhausted, trying to avoid all of that.
So important, so important. And so I think like I want to book with you like today. Like I want to, I'm only in Colorado, so I can make it.
Yes.
But I definitely like I want to go to you like as soon as I can. Because this is insane, and I really want to see like what's even happening in my own body. Because I switched from a carnivorous diet to vegetarian. I felt different and great. And then, as you know, this is the day of the recording is my last day on a 21-day fast. I'm doing water only today, so I'm feeling really great. But I have struggled with weight and hormones my entire life, and I was on birth control for 6 years, and I just got off of it after finding out just how toxic it is. Had no clue that it was that toxic. And I find that fascinating that birth control, I mean, it makes sense, but I think it's fascinating that pharmaceuticals, birth control specifically for women, which, we want free birth control. And that's been a movement, of like free, it should be free and accessible to anyone and everyone. And now I have like the opposite feeling, like, no, like we need to like ban this stuff. Like this stuff is awful and evil. Like it would be different if it wasn't laced with shit and didn't like mess with you in such an awful way. And I know it's helped some women regulate. So I'm sure there's positives in that aspect for certain people, but for everyone to be on it, it's like, whoa. But I think that's fascinating that you see that from the diaphragm down, most women have a lack of chi and blood, like in the area that we are meant to have more and that we actually like produce and release each month. Like, we're supposed to be more like that should be where it's even more versus upper, right? Is what I would think.
Yeah. And honestly, it just comes down to a lack of education. I mean, we're not taught about what birth control actually does when it comes time when we're like 15, 16, around the time when we start to deal with hormonal acne for some of us, or you have your first menstrual cycle, usually a bit younger, or you start to have cramps and all this stuff. And people think, okay, immediately birth control, that will solve everything. And although it's masking a lot of this for a time. And I do see the value, women with PCOS or endometriosis or
Right.
some other conditions, that's going to take a lot of work, and it's going to be a big commitment to manage all of that. And some women aren't ready for that step, to manage it naturally, or it's just too much. And so I understand, the value of it for some women. But I just wish that we were more educated
Yeah.
young about what it actually does and how to take care of ourselves and what some alternative options are. And we're
Mhm.
just not,
Yeah.
largely. I'm sure some women are.
Yeah. I think that's so important because I know before birth control, I struggled with like the typical back aches and cramps. And so when I came off of it, I actually just have had my first cycle off of birth control, and I'm in my second cycle now. And this past moon cycle, I'll say for all the gentlemen watching, sorry. I cramped for the first time and it was so intense. Like I woke up at 2, 3 in the morning, and I've not taken pain meds in years because I've seen it, how it's affected my dad. And that was enough for me to be like, never. Um, and so I just like put pressure because I didn't even have like a heating pad or anything. I didn't typically, for years, I haven't typically had cramps with being on birth control, but I just was like, okay, maybe pressure will help. Like, so maybe I can fall asleep. I finally fell asleep around 6:30. And so my question to you is like, what is going on? Do you know that is there something why we cramp other than just like, I understand having a little discomfort because we're quote unquote shedding, sorry dudes.
Yeah.
But like, is there a reason why we can struggle with so much pain? Like it's like real pain.
Yes. First of all, dudes, you should all know this too, because half of us are women. So I hope you're all listening.
Right.
Uh, but yeah, so with Chinese medicine is actually very simple. You have hot, cold, you have excess, deficient, yin yang, interior, exterior. So when you're looking at your cycle, if heat helped your pain, then that means there's cold in your uterus. If pressure helped, it's a deficiency. If pressure made it worse, it's excess. So you can have cramping for different reasons, and it will be treated differently because of that, based on, a lot of women have a cold uterus in this country, just because of everything we've been given. Birth control is really cold. Antibiotics are really cold in nature. We wear crop tops and don't nourish our womb leading up to our cycle, which is an external invasion of cold, which love a good crop top, not saying don't wear it, but on your cycle, just be mindful of
Like you
nurturing that
should,
space.
you should clothe, like be like wrapped up.
Oh yeah, yeah. We eat really cold foods like smoothies and cold drinks, ice water. All of that is really taxing for our system. And trust me, I love a good smoothie, but you don't want to start your day with that because it's the first thing that's in your system, and your body has to work really hard to warm up anything cold you give it. So you're actually using your energy to warm that up before your body can process it. So all of these things are
Wow.
contributing to our cycle as a whole. With the uterus specifically, if you haven't taken birth control, you are mindful of your food. There are, like PCOS or endometriosis, that's going to cause cramping. Blood stagnation is the severe cramping that makes you, want to throw up, or you're like doubled over. There's some
Yeah.
serious blood stasis there. And that can be from a deficiency, because sometimes you don't have the energy to move the blood, and that's why there's stasis, or it's an excess. Usually with cramping, especially in this country, it's deficiency based, and all of that can be worked on. And all of this will also sometimes correspond to hormonal imbalances. It really depends. You can have these Chinese medicine or TCM
Mhm.
conditions and have a hormonal imbalance. They can also exist separately. It really depends client to client. But there's awesome things that you can do for cycle regulation. I think too, it's important to listen to your body, because your cycle for a lot of women is going to be worse in terms of cramping if you're overworking. If you're doing something and your body's like, hey, please pay attention to me, I need rest. This is a time when you're supposed to be resting and you're not listening, and now I'm pissed off. So there's that
Mhm.
energetic component to it as well.
Where it's like, no, we're going to force this to happen. Like,
Yeah.
we're going to force you to rest because you need to hit the restart button.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. Um, it hit me like, I actually, when I first started, I was 10 and a half, I think 10 and a half, 11. And I actually was doubled over and would crawl on my knees all the way from my room through the hallway, through the family room, through the kitchen, through the living room into my parents' master. And it took me about 45 minutes to an hour. And I would crawl, like scooch on my knees like skis because the pain was
No.
so bad. And we actually went to the doctor and they're like, I think they were just trying to scare me, like she's being dramatic. And they're like, we're gonna have to remove your uterus if you don't get better. And so that was it. And so I would take 1,200 milligrams of ibuprofen or Tylenol. So from the beginning, yeah. As a herbalist, you're dying right now. At 11 years old, my mom would put me, and we would gradually go up. It wasn't like we just started with that
Right.
amount, but I also have a high tolerance to alcohol and medicine because of long history of alcoholics in my family genes. So like 200 does not like where did it go? Nowhere. Like it's like, so we gradually would go up until I was comfortable, until I still was in pain, but I wasn't writhing. Like she couldn't even touch me. She couldn't even touch my foot. My whole body would spasm and shake. It was just freaking awful. So now I'm thinking like, so what is that? Is that a deficiency? I knew I was a cereal baby. Like we just had sugary cereal for breakfast and, no nutritional understanding at all. So maybe that had to do with it, but that would be interesting for us to go through when I book a session with you, because that's happening.
Yeah. Yeah, that'd be awesome. Yeah, I definitely have some thoughts about
Yeah.
that I'll share with you.
Yeah. Cause it's interesting, but I know I'm not alone in that. Like I know so many
Mm-mm.
women are like, what the heck? Like from the get-go, it was extremely painful, not just discomfort, but like awful, awful pain. Um,
Yeah.
we need to be educated more.
Yeah, and then you're throwing meds, throwing all this stuff, which is taxing your Western and anatomical liver as well. So your liver in Chinese medicine is what regulates your cycle because your liver stores the blood. So,
Dude,
yeah,
I did
so it's
not know
like,
that.
yeah. So now when we choose to come off of birth control, I took it for 10, 10, 12 years, a very long time. And I'm on year 3 without it. But when you come off of it, you have to unpattern all of that, Western and Eastern liver, which corresponds to hormones, which corresponds to a slew of different things.
Wow. What are some things for me, for anyone who is, because I know several of my friends are also, they're wising up and realizing this is totally crap for me. And so they're coming off of it. I know there's kind of a wave of that probably happening right now. I'm taking chaste tree, I think.
Yeah,
Yeah. So I'm taking chaste tree and I started that the month before I even came off of it, I think. No. I started
yeah,
it when I first came off. Is there anything else that we could take or do that would
yeah.
help?
So definitely, see I'll do the caveat of see a practitioner to get something specific for your system, but something that's really easy over the counter, Vitex root naturally balances progesterone and estrogen. So a lot of women have success with that if that is the one of the underlying problems. Red raspberry leaf tea. Um, yes, that's the English translation. I learn all these
Yeah.
herbs in pinyin, so I have to translate them back to English. But yes, red raspberry leaf tea, which is really easy to find, Sprouts
Yeah.
or a local anywhere. Um, it's a blood mover, so it's fantastic for cramping and for leading up to your cycle. So that's very easily accessible. A lot of women take that in tea form, or you can get the capsules, and sometimes it knocks your cramps out completely.
Oh,
For those,
wow. That's so
yeah,
cool.
it definitely helped me. I have another history of a lot of cramping. It didn't take mine away because I had a more extreme not extreme, but I needed something stronger than that to work
Mhm.
through. But for a lot of women, it works great. So, give that a shot. It's really safe. Yeah.
Ah, that's so cool. That's so
Hmm.
dang cool. Um, so I want to honor your time. So appreciate you taking the time to go through this. With with cupping, I think I wanted to understand maybe just a little bit more of like what is the process like? Because I've seen different types
Mm.
where there's fire still in. I feel like I've seen that in video clips, and then I've seen it where it's not, but there's this crazy sucking that happens, and it's just
Yes.
so cool, like so scientific, you know?
Uh-huh.
So
Yeah.
what is that process?
So with the glass cups, that's fire cupping, because you have to have something that's going to create the suction. I will hold a flame, and for me, it's super high tech. It's just a cotton ball soaked in 100 proof alcohol, and it's on fire. Um, and I have thousands of hours of training in this, so don't let this scare you. And the flame's never anywhere near your hair or your body. It's very safe for you. But I put that flame in the cup, and the fire eats the oxygen from inside the cup. So when I put it on your body, that's what it's doing, is it's now sucking the oxygen out of the first few layers of your skin or your fascia, and that's what creates the sucking motion. So the suction can be controlled. I'm controlling it based on how long I'm using the flame for each cup, and we can always, what I call, burp the cup, so let some air out, and that'll make it less intense.
Yeah, that's so cool.
So
Burp the cup.
yeah, burp the cup. Yeah.
And then I've seen you squeeze. So do you have other different type of like cupping things?
Yeah.
Is that what I'm
Yeah. So
seeing?
yeah, totally. I have the glass cups. I have facial cups. I have magnet cups, they're plastic, hard plastic, and they have a magnet in them, and you use like this little pump to suck the air out. And then the silicone ones, which I squeeze to put on and then drag and move.
Yes.
Those are really important for the manual lymphatic drainage portion and to get around joints. It's really hard to get the glass cups to stick like the top of your shoulder joint, or if we're doing around your knee or your ankle, because it's your body's so angular. That's when the silicone cups come in handy, because they can get whatever angle all day, every day. So I do think it's important to use all the different. I prefer the glass ones anytime I can use them, just because I think it feels better as a client. It's also more, what's the word I want to use? Primal, but more traditional.
Mhm.
And they're warm. They're like a hug, but they're all great. They're all valuable. The magnet ones I use and I say magnet. So your refrigerator magnet is about 100 gal in strength. These are 1200 gal. And then I use some magnets up to 12,500 gal. And we'll use positive or negative based on, if negative is sedating and positive is stimulating. So based on what's going on, we can do like a whole magnet series on your back, which really helps to move blood strongly and resets your magnetic field, which is a pretty cool thing to do.
So cool. It's so cool. Do you ever do like everything? Like is it like you're like someone's got like some needles and then you're cupping, or like do you ever use all of it like on somebody?
Yeah, I would say more often than not, I'm doing combo treatments. Um, or we'll do like half and half. So if I need to do needles on the back, maybe we'll do cupping the first 30, 45 minutes, depending on how long our session is, and then needles the second half.
That's so cool. So you definitely have that combo where it can be tailored to whatever they need is basically what you
Mhm.
do. And then you either give them instructions on what herbs they should be taking, or you actually make like a concoction of something that they take with them. Is that how that works?
Yeah, so sometimes I'll give them over the counter things like the red raspberry leaf tea. I don't carry that because it's so easy for you to find, and it's easy to get well sourced raspberry leaves. But I have a bunch of formulas that we can do custom, or we can do. There's a couple brands that I love that have the preset formulas that are
Mhm.
really easy and convenient. A lot of clients prefer taking pills or capsules to powders, which is fine. I want you to take what you'll actually consume, because if it's sitting on your counter, it won't help you. So if
Right.
you can't take the powder because it's too bitter, because a lot of our herbs are really bitter, that's fine. Let's just use capsules.
Yeah. whatever it takes to get it in you.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's so cool. Oh, this is so fascinating. Thank you so much for your time and diving in deep on
Yeah,
all things.
absolutely.
This was so much fun and such a pleasure to have you on. And where can people find you to book a session with you?
Yeah, so my website is www.admiringyouwellness.com, and on Instagram, I am admiringyouwellness. My last name looks like someone just pounded on a keyboard, but it's pronounced Meiring, which is why my business is Admiring You. It gives you a way to remember how to say my last name.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
How awesome is that? Oh, that's so cool. Awesome. And I'll have those links, including your social media links for people so that they can click on it and go ahead and book with you. And do you have packages, or is it just kind of a one-off, like just continue to book, or do you have like packages for people?
I have packages on there, definitely. I think they're a series of 4, 8, or 12, just to give you a little discount. If you wanted to do a package, we can do it, as you come into. It's honestly a combo of I'll recommend what I would do for whatever we're working on specifically, but of course it's whatever you're able to do.
That's awesome. Very cool.
Yeah, we'll
Thank
make
you
it
so
work.
much. Thank you so much. This was so awesome. Such a gift to have you on.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be here. This was so much fun to talk about what I love and to meet you in
Yes.
the online world.
Yes, it's so good. It's so good. And we'll be in talks because I'm like, I need to do this. Feeling the call, feeling the pull. I'm sure other people are. So thank you so much. Such a pleasure.